Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Modern Market. This is our daily show from Monday to Friday at 7 a.m. Eastern Time, 12 p.m. GMT, every day of the week, where we discuss all things to do with the modern market. That is the crypto market, the NFT market, and the SEC Twitter account. We are going to discuss a little bit, just a little bit, on some of the escapades taking place in the past 24 hours. What a day. What a day in the crypto market. Absolutely insane. You cannot make it up. I'm your host, B-Check. I'm joined, as always, by my legendary co-host, Legendary. We're going to get into all of the craziness of the past 24 hours and some of the unexpected outcomes from the last 24 hours. All the focus being on Bitcoin. Everything is down and ETH is up. After everyone waiting for ETH to go up for such a long period of time, what on earth is going on? We're going to get into all of it in just a moment. We're live on X, we're live on YouTube, but just a reminder, friends, that nothing we say here is financial advice. This modern market is exceptionally risky. We do not know anything for sure, so please do proceed with caution and exercise your own judgment. With that out of the way, Legendary, how are you doing this Wednesday, the 10th of January?
GM, I think I picked the worst week to take a fucking holiday. We had a crisis space because of the Bitcoin flash crash after fake reports of BTC ETF being not approved. We had a pump spaces with the giga candles and all green. We have a fake SEC, an official fake SEC approval, if you can call it like that. It's an official fake approval. There's just not. I hoped for a couple chill spaces, to be honest. I was like, look, this is the only thing that I'm going to do throughout the holiday. I'm going to join you for an hour to, catch up with the market, have a chat, to not miss the modern market. But that's not how I planned for it to go. But it is entertaining. It is hilarious. And talking about big spaces, I think both of us had something quite interesting going on yesterday. You co-hosted with Thread Guy. How did that come to be, and how did that go?
Yeah, it was good, man. As you say, definitely a crazy time to be away in January. And I think maybe a lot of people have been cooking up plans for January. And one of the things that happened for me is obviously Thread Guy was looking for a new co-host. And he reached out and I mean, I read through the comments of the tweet. You might have seen this tweet that went out like a week or week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago. And he said like, look, I'm looking for a co-host. I scrolled through the comments and it was literally everyone. Like everyone wanted to be have their hat put in the ring as a potential co-host, much because I think what he's created in his community / his listener base is a really interesting show, which I don't think anyone is actually able to do apart from him. We were just speaking off air saying what the type of show we do, it's discussion based, right? Like, yes, some of us go off on stuff every now and again, but man, his monologues are really something. Like they're really something, and there's some actual art to it. And I don't know if many people can do that. And whilst it's kind of chaotic at some points, you have these amazing people on stage as well who are able to provide this awesome insight. So I think that's why so many people wanted to get involved. And he actually reached out to me like a week ago, maybe, and said, like, look, I know you're kind of the opposite, and we're kind of opposite characters, opposite people. But I think some of your skill sets is kind of what I need. Maybe I can add a little bit to what you normally do, and we're going to give it a go. So yeah, it kind of happened really, really quickly. Definitely appreciate that we come at the space from a very, very different perspective and different angle, but I think that's kind of what he's looking for. And I think I can offer something like very, very different. So that's the plan, to just give it a go, see how it fits, see how his audience likes it. But it was pretty entertaining, very, very entertaining, very fun to partner. And the thing I would say about him is that he's definitely like his work ethic and what he's been able to achieve in 2023 is pretty epic. It's pretty epic. And the way that he does his show on the solo basis, like, oh, yes, he has co-hosts, but he's the headline guy. It's pretty interesting and a kind of different form of art than what the rest of us are practicing. So very, very interested there. I know you tuned in for a little bit. I want to get onto your one in a second, but just from your perspective, what did you think for a little bit of time that you tuned in?
Yeah, I mean, I've been on a couple TG spaces before, and have spoken on those, and it's quite obvious that the both of you are very, very different persons. But I think that the personalities are complementing each other quite well, because it wouldn't make a lot of sense for TG to host with someone who is, a carbon copy of him. But given that the two of us hosted for, what is it, 8 months together now for the Daily Show, and we had our spaces and podcasts before that, I obviously know how you approach spaces and how you approach hosting, and I think that your skill set and your approach to structuring a conversation complements that skill set that TG has with the monologuing, the entertaining, like being the headlight star of his show in a very, very, very good fashion. And I'm kind of thinking live about this, because if you had someone who is a very similar personality to him and also wants to be like in the center of attention in his own show, the star of his own show, that wouldn't really work out well. But those two dynamics that you have, I think, are a rather nice fit.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's an interesting complementary dynamic, I think. And that's definitely the intention. So we're going to see how it runs. Very, very excited to be partnering up with him in this capacity so early on in the year, and just seeing where we go with it. Very, very excited about it. Um, One of the interesting dynamics is, like he mentioned, I mean, we have been talking privately about this as well, that we want to go double down on what's working, right? He knows his space is a really special thing. We know our spaces. We kind of picked this up halfway through the year, and now we're really kicking on in this year, but we want to double down more. How was your experience with ZTX? For the people who don't know, Legendary hosts the ZTX show with Karma from ZTX. And it's like specific to gaming, real big deep dives, getting on some of the best potential guests to speak about Web3 gaming. And yesterday's show really blew up. How have you been thinking about it there, and how's your experience been from that perspective?
Yeah, I've been hosting the CTX spaces with Karma for since October, so like 3 to 4 months, and obviously we did think over the holidays what we can do to further grow the show and how we want to set up the guests. And yesterday, as you said, like really blew up. It was the biggest show we ever had. We had 950 live listeners. We had
Wow.
3.5K tune in as live listeners counted by X, and now with the replays we're at over 5K people who tuned in all together. And it is it's quite insane to think about that, because at the same time Kermit was also hosting a fantastic gaming show himself, and got, I think it was 500-600 listeners live as well. So just to
Interesting.
think about the fact that Web3 gaming got to a place where you can have two spaces at the same time and get more than 1.5K live listeners in across the two of them shows you the interest for this topic. And it also kind of reinforced my stance on wanting to double down on those spaces as well, and have, because gaming like's always been a passion of mine, and have that focus with those weekly spaces is a lot of fun, and it's certainly cool to see the
Yeah.
growth from where it started to where it's now.
Yeah, that's super interesting. And we've said so many times, and for people who are, trying to gauge sentiment, watch Twitter Spaces numbers. Like it's like before this bull started to happen, we started to notice uptick on the show, on the snapshot, on everything. Like the media is a really good tell of what's happening. And as you say, like the fact that you can have two 500 plus spaces at the same time on Web3 gaming, that's pretty significant, I think, from my perspective. So that is super, super interesting. Funky, you have your hand raised. Welcome to the stage. Any reflections on this idea of doubling down on spaces? And for the people waiting, yes, we're going to get into all of the craziness of the past 24 hours in just a moment too. Just a little bit of light reflection before we get into it. Funky, welcome.
GM, everybody. I just want to say a very heartfelt congratulations, B-Check. I had no idea that this has happened. This is a massive opportunity. I'm so happy for you. I feel like you are the perfect, juxtaposition of Thread Guy in terms of just everything that you guys said was spot on. I will do my best because it's kind of at a conflict time to tune in and listen. But I just wanted to give a congratulations. And before we get into the conversation, for everybody else, if you guys can just go and click the little purple pill down at the bottom, the comment. Please like, bookmark, repost the space because I'm sure we're going to have a fantastic conversation today. Let's get some more people in here before we get it going.
Appreciate you, Funky. Thank you so much for that. Thank you so much to all the listeners as well who've started to engage with the Modern Market account a lot more than before. I literally messaged Legendary before the show saying, damn, look at that morning tweet. We're getting way more traction there. Really appreciate it. Really appreciate John throwing in all of the updates as they're coming in as well. Really enjoy crowdsourcing some of this top quality information as well. We've got our eyes on the comments the whole time. And just before we get into it, we're delighted to shout out today's sponsor too, which is Gondi, the premier NFT lending protocol, where smart lenders can refinance NFT loans and smart borrowers can get steady rates against their best NFTs. Gondi is advised and trusted by legendary collectors, Seed Phrase, G-Funk, and I'm an ambassador for them too. We're going to give you a breakdown of one of their market leading features a little later in the show, so stay tuned for that. With that out of the way, Legendary, let's get into it, into the snapshot, which is all the price action and headlines from the past 24 hours. Let's do it. Starting with the price action, we got crypto. Oops, this is incorrect. Wednesday, the 10th of January. That's not right. Bitcoin is not at 46.7. Let me find the other sheet. That's a mistake. That is not a good start. Bitcoin is down 2% at 45.4. ETH is up 4% at 2.4K. Solana is down 4.5% at 97. So definitely want to talk about why ETH is up and everything else is down. That's the first thing that's going to be on everyone's minds. So have to get into that in just a second. Let's find the snapshot again. Where is it? 1 second.
So many tabs already for the show.
This is just terrible. Too many tabs. Where am I? Here we go. Everything's lined up. Not good. Getting into the headlines, SEC X account hacked to produce fake BTC ETF approval tweet. Bitcoin is down 2%. ETH is up 5%. Saga Monkeys airdrop to Solana phone holders pass a $1,000 floor as Solana founder makes it his PFP. An interesting point there was I saw someone say that it's past Utes, which I think everyone just wants to try to dunk on the collection which left Solana, especially if something on Solana is going particularly well now. And finally, top 15 NFT projects now combine for over $3.8 billion of floor-based market cap. NFT Stats reports. Thought that was a pretty interesting statistic to include as one of the headlines. Getting into some notable sales and some floor prices. CryptoPunks are at 53 ETH. Bored Apes at 23.9, down 3%, slipping a little bit. Mutants down 6% at 4.6. DGods minus 1% at 3. Captains at 4. Azuki at 6.7, down 5%. Penguins at 10.6, down 3%. Moonbirds at 1.3. Nouns at 8.7 ETH. A couple of notable sales. Jack Butcher, check 13, selling for 25 ETH. That's a single check. I remember Jack Butcher is releasing this Ordinals collection, and the single check holders are going to get one for free, I believe. So that's why there's been a run on these single checks selling for huge amounts. And there was also a run yesterday on Bitcoin Punks. This one here sold for 2.65 Bitcoin, which is, I had to double check this when I looked at it, but Bitcoin has been going up, $121,000 for a Bitcoin Punk. This was part of a 4 Bitcoin Punk sweep. So about 10 ETH, I guess, spent on Bitcoin Punks yesterday, which is, I guess, almost $500,000. Good.
Can I jump in here?
Yes, Sam.
Sorry, B-Check.
Oh, welcome.
It's so rude to interrupt. It's so rude to interrupt. But Bitcoin Punks and Ordinal Punks are very different things. So you got to say Ordinal Punks.
Gosh, damn it. Are there actually is there a collection called Bitcoin Punks as well?
Bitcoin Punks are basically just 100% clones of Bitcoin carved into ordinals, and they trade at like a 0.05 Bitcoin floor, and that's what Ryan Carson was famous for buying, like 200 worth of. Whereas Ordinal Punks is just a 100 NFT or 100 ordinal collection, and a bit more old school, and like first 3,000 or first 10,000 maybe inscriptions. And
okay,
it's kind of the first thing to pop off, but they are very, very different.
Got it. Okay, because I had seen some people on the timeline saying that this is kind of showing Ryan Carson's prescient investment thesis, suggesting that it was actually playing out. So is this not the same collection that he had bought back then which one is this one? This is the
B-check,
ordinal
you're too
punters.
smart to follow the timeline, bro. No, yeah, no. This has nothing to do with Ryan Carson's trade. Ryan
Damn
Carson's
it.
trade
Wanted
did
to make
play
it
out.
about Ryan Carson somehow.
Everyone wants to make it about Ryan Carson. His trade did play out because there were, a little bit. I think there was like a zombie or an ape that sold for like 40 ETH. I always convert to ETH. Don't mind me. But so he's starting to get a little bit of Ryan Carson redemption. But yeah, no, it's very different from the ordinal.
Interesting stuff. I did notice, by the way, Sam, that you're converting the Bitcoin to ETH in your thing, and you'll see in the snapshot, I always convert straight to dollars purely because I don't have space to put the Bitcoin price, then the ETH price, then the dollar price. Like how are you actually thinking about this? Like, because I guess it's kind of important in what we denominate. Like,
yeah,
what's your
I just
decision there? Thinking
I
there?
kind of think that the people who want this stuff, like digital collectibles, are broadly ETH native. And I think we've been sitting around, like, I can tell you the Chromie Squiggle or the Punk Floor in ETH much faster than I can tell you in US dollars. So, like,
True.
that's just kind of the way that my thinking has evolved as an analyst in this space for 2 years. So maybe I'm kind of just serving myself here. But, like, I personally, when I look at Bitcoin frogs at 0.2 Bitcoin, I really don't know what to do with that. Whereas if I convert that to like, 4 ETH, I'm like, okay, now I can think like Mochaverse and, where DeGod used to be and mutants are gone. Like, then it all starts to ring in for me. So, I'm certainly serving my own audience and myself,
Got it.
And to be honest, I even think Bitcoin, Bitcoin people have, in the beginning, I actually thought, like, even for Bitcoin folks, like, people, this is a digital collectible. That's what we're dealing with. I think the digital collectible space, until about 3 months ago, was really people who thought in terms of ETH, and I think that's changing now. But yeah.
Yeah, interesting. First point, I definitely, I think it's completely right to, in order to be able to place these collections, the ETH number is definitely easiest. But the second point, in terms of like determining how, like, self-reflecting, being like, well, that's what's useful to me. I think ultimately, like, if you're thinking something as the person who's going through the news every single day, because I think about this as well, then ultimately that would probably be helpful to other people. So going with your gut instinct there, I think is probably correct. Legendary, what do you think? Any numbers sticking out to you there? Any thoughts on this ordinal movement?
It is, well, to the currency discussion, it is so hard to think in more than one currency. And I said it multiple times on the show.
Seriously confusing.
I just price everything in ETH. I just find it so convenient to think in ETH, and even rent, flights, the holiday I'm on, when I go for dinner,
really?
everything is, I'm not making this up. It's just got to a point, because I spend all my day looking at charts and JPEGs, that it has gotten easier for me to also think about my daily spending in ETH, because at the end of the day, this is my rent money, if you want to put it like that, and my fixed costs are coming out of the cryptocurrency side of things, because I am full-time in this, right? So it just makes more sense to do my budget and everything in ETH, even though it's the more volatile currency.
That's quite funny. That's funny to do it that way around. I wouldn't say I think like that, but there's the thing that I have started thinking like now is that my pounds, my Great British pounds, is just gas. Like, gas money just needs to be burned for little tasks that you need to do around the universe. So like, if I go to a shop, I just burn some GBP, and so that's the like cash money that is in the bank account is purely just gas fees to cover your costs. That's one of the things that I've started to think about. Have you ever thought like that?
No, that's a way more degen way to think.
Is it?
I love it. Yeah, bro, you're talking about literally going to the grocery store and buying food and talk about that as gas fees. Yes, that is degenerate, but I love it.
Okay.
I'm all there for it.
I thought that was, I think your way is more degenerate, personally.
I was always like when I first got to this space, because, as you guys know, I'm not like a super crypto native guy. I was always annoyed. I was like, people wanted to say like 1 ETH equals 1 ETH, but every single one of us is out here, paying rent and getting food and getting car insurance and doing the things that you need to do in order to live, and none of that is in ETH. So it felt more like narrative than reality. Although I would say, having been in the space now for 2 years, I like really do think in terms of ETH. Like it is a much more natural place for me to think about when I think in terms of NFTs. But at least my financial situation is I have like, a bit of my personal wealth in kind of sitting in crypto, and then the rest isn't, and like when I'm thinking about that crypto bag, I'm not really thinking about the groceries. I'm not really thinking about rent. I'm just thinking about like growing that bag, and that it doesn't really bridge to real life all that much.
Yeah, that makes sense. But have you started to think of your in real life costs as gas fees, Sam? That's the question.
No, sir. No. That's like not even on my radar screen. But
well, just wanted to put it on your radar screen. See, now that you've got that framework.
Dude, I got a wife and 3 kids and live in the mountains, dude. My gas on NFTs is like the least of my expenses.
Well, so yeah, you've got high gas fees.
The college fund is also a gas fee, adding massively to the gas fees. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
There you go, Sam.
I see what you mean. Gas is like that which propels your life forward. Dude, I would need to set up. I would need to set up a BP station outside my house.
We can extend this metaphor as far as we need to go. Funky, your hand was raised. I think. Did you want to come in before we get into the main headline?
I don't have the clout that Sam does to just interrupt you. I'm just going to say the same thing. It was ordinal punks.
Oh, that what? Thank you very much for that clarification. Let's get into it then, though, guys. We've taken 27 minutes messing around with gas fees and degenerate metaphors. Okay, so yesterday, this was one of the most hilarious things. The strange thing was I wasn't even surprised when the SEC, it turned out that the SEC X account was hacked. So the first and foremost, they tweeted a tweet to say that the Bitcoin ETF was approved. I think it was 15 minutes later that Gary Gensler then tweeted to say that, didn't say that the account was hacked, just said that, oh no, he did. He said it was compromised and that it has not been approved. And it's just, obviously crypto Twitter erupted, realizing this is one of the funniest places that you could ever exist on the internet. Legendary, what was your take on it? What did you think of what was happening? And then we'll talk about like the price action on the back of it, because I think that's kind of interesting too.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I woke up in the morning to all of that, right? So I slipped through it. And one of the first posts that I saw on my timeline was actually the one that you quoted in the snapshot, which is the explanation by X Safety, which Elon reposted himself, that basically did specify that they conducted an analysis on the SEC account, and the SEC account didn't have 2FA, two-factor authentication on, or the phone number that was compromised and associated to that account, because obviously more than one phone number is associated to that account, didn't have 2FA on at the time when the, well, quote unquote hack had happened. And then I scrolled a bit more through the timeline, and someone made actually a very good point, putting my tinfoil hat on, but I quite like that theory.
Going straight to the tinfoil.
Straight to the tinfoil. And Sam just said before, right, BJ, you're too smart to, base your information on the timeline. That probably says that I'm not as smart, because I do base my theory off a random commenter that I saw on my timeline, who said that he didn't think that a hack happened, because the way the post was worded, the graphics and everything was very like SEC alike, even up to the point that they used the template that the SEC uses when they have a comment with the picture of Gary Gensler, etc. And his or their hypothesis was that, the ETF is to be approved, and they just had a tweet or post scheduled for that, but it was scheduled on the wrong date. Then it went out. Gary Gensler posted the account was compromised, and then they removed that and basically did stick with that storyline, which, I don't know, like in the world where the SEC account gets compromised and we have an official fake approval, fake news, that theory is not that much out of place either. So I quite liked it.
I don't mind that one, I don't mind it, because I actually had this take for discussion as well lined up. I don't know if this was the exact same one you saw, Legendary, but this is the one I had. This is from Brian saying the leading theory is Gary accidentally tweeted. And when they say Gary tweeted, I don't think Gary's literally got his hand on the account. Someone in the SEC accidentally tweeted a draft that they had saved. I think this is what you're saying, right, Legendary? The hacker would have made 100x more being short and tweeting the ETF denial rather than being long and tweeting approval. Is that kind of what you were thinking, Legendary?
Sorry, I'm laughing. Yes, it is what I'm thinking. I'm laughing hard because I see the top comment under this post also by Brian himself saying the second leading theory is the hacker is simply retarded, which is hilarious. Yeah. But yeah, that's it. It's not the post by Brian, but it was exactly the same theory.
Okay, and then just further down the street, like it seems he had a bit of time to reflect on it, and he just starts to think that it starts to agree more with the second leading theory.
Yeah, based on someone saying that the SEC account did like a couple weird posts, so the thinking is that it was compromised.
Interesting. Want to throw to Jack straight away, and then yeah, let's go to Jack straight away, and then we'll go through some more takes and definitely the price implications of this. Jack, what's up? Welcome to the stage.
Thank you. Yeah, GM boys. Look, I just want to add fire to this fuel of speculation on how this all happened. So I accidentally stumbled upon what I think we call it in X now, a cabal Discord, where they basically were saying that they had inside scoop from an X Twitter /X security guy who said that it was a scheduled tweet. He said there's no proof of and this is pure speculation, this is just a random message stream that people started popping off, but they were very certain that it was an accidental scheduled tweet that went a day earlier, so the expectation is it's today. NFA people, this is as NFA as it's ever been. If anything, I would specifically bet against this theory, but that essentially this X security guy was like, no, this was just a scheduled tweet. There's no evidence of a hack or anybody else accessing this account, and they believe it just went 24 hours earlier. So we will see what will come, but you heard it here first. We will definitely say we broke the news on Modern Market if the announcement does come today. But yeah, I don't believe I'm actually part of a cabal, just somebody trying to wind me up. And now the rest of the space.
Very good stuff. Yeah, I mean, ultimately, it's hard to know what to go on. Clearly, a mistake of huge proportions. Wanted to go to this other tweet that I found that a lot of people have been picking out, which I thought was very humorous, getting it up for those on YouTube and sharing with you guys listening in as well. OSF tweeted the end of Gary Gensler soon, and quote tweeting a tweet from October the 16th, 2023, where they said, where the SEC tweeted, "Careful what you read on the internet. The best source of information about the SEC is the SEC." So people are definitely going to enjoy this. They're going to enjoy the moment. We've said multiple times, people do really, really enjoy to dunk on Gary and the SEC. So they're certainly not going to miss this opportunity.
Another very, very popular dunk was taking Gary Gensler's post from October 23, the Cybersecurity Awareness Month that he proclaimed, and where he shared, it's important to turn 2FA on to secure your accounts, etc., etc., etc. And one more shout out that I want to make is going again to John in the comments. John has been on a massive, massive run providing us with extra information.
Nice.
John pointed out another post by Cameron Winklevoss, the Gemini co-founder.
John, are you reading my prep? I've literally got that lined up for the next.
He is part of that cabal that doesn't exist apparently.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, Cameron saying today the SEC showed what it does best, manipulating markets and hurting US investors, which is obviously a very, very strong take.
Yes.
But definitely did see a lot of approval in the comments as well.
Yeah. So I've definitely had this one up because I wanted to discuss it a little bit. What do you think of this, Legendary? Because my instinctive thought on this, I don't know. Let me think about what I'm trying to say. So first, I think that is a very, very aggressive statement. Like that is very, very aggressive. Um, kind of breaking it down a little bit. There's a suggestion that the SEC is always like manipulating markets. B, there's a suggestion it's hurting investors. But C, there's like the clear indication that what they did or what happened yesterday was like definitively a coordinated intentional thing. And I would like my personal like initial thoughts thinking about this out loud live is that look, you can the historical stuff is probably something which they might be able to argue a bit better in the sense that if they feel like they have evidence of the SEC like being difficult and manipulating in some other ways beforehand. But to suggest like I don't know, I just feel like there's a non-zero.
I'll be more straightforward than you. To suggest that they did this on purpose is absolutely stupid. Like you can disagree with the policy, you can disagree with the approach to protect U.S. investors, but to suggest that they did this on purpose to nuke the market or whatever and then profit off that is absolutely stupid because obviously the SEC knows what they're going to decide, and they did know when, for example, the ETF got delayed, and they could very well have anticipated that the market won't react to that in a positive way. So they don't have the need to put out a post and be like, oh, we were hacked, and delete the post. If they wanted to profit off market movements, they would be the best source. Of course, I'm not saying that they're doing it. That this is not the point of my take, right? But they could very well do that without having to put up a bogus post of fake approval and remove that. So again, you can agree with hurting US investors, but saying that this is done intentionally is very, very stupid, in my opinion.
You don't think Gary did this to intentionally nuke Bitcoin so he could personally buy 10 more of them, dude?
Yeah, maybe I need a new tinfoil hat to believe that.
No, I mean, this just makes them look like complete morons. I think it will get people fired and ruin careers. And there is nothing good that comes out of this, period. Like that is just, I have a good friend who works at the SEC. I'm going to ping her and see what she says about it. Like I think in our world, because our feed is just fully people who want to perma dunk on the SEC, like this was like the biggest mistake in history. Like most of them do not follow me on Twitter. Most of them do not follow OSF on Twitter. Like to them, it's bad, but they're probably not, it's not quite as bad, but this is like the type of thing that is going to fuck with careers. And like, I don't know. Like, yeah. I mean, if one of these people were, I'm not conspiratorial enough to be in this space. Sometimes I think like when I worked at Goldman Sachs and we wrote research reports that move markets, like we were told every day that we would go to jail if we front ran anything we wrote. Like no one did it. Like, and that's just like deeply embedded in me, like from the fear of God and that you get at the idea of doing those types of things. And that was very much a real experience I had kind of in a market moving role for 8 years. So like, I don't know, like just based on my experience, like I just cannot, and that type of stuff would be even more intense in those types of rules where, half of the House of Representatives will get you arrested the minute it comes clear that there's, that you've done this type of shit.
100%. But I don't know, we love our conspiracy theories in this space, and we love the SEC conspiracy, and we also love the BlackRock conspiracy. If we can't explain something, then BlackRock did something in the background to nuke the markets. I read that theory with the Matrix report that BlackRock was behind that, so that they have like one last chance before the ETF goes live to get a cheap entry. I don't know. It feels like if we don't have an explanation, we default to either SEC does something or BlackRock does something, and that's the go-to default explanation for anything.
Yeah, I'm with you, Legendary, but I don't put these types of things in writing lest my feed destroy me.
So Sam, do you think it's probably something as simple, because this is kind of the direction I was going in, it's as simple as just administratively messing up the comms? Like it seems to be the case that this is going to go out probably today, we're only saying probably, and they just got the wrong day. Can it be as simple as that with no conspiratorial intention?
Well, I thought that, like, I mean, what do you make of the Twitter tweet? I mean, like, I think like Twitter and Elon are probably not people who generally like the SEC either. But their tweet was very much like, I thought the subtle tone of their tweet was like, look at what an idiot the SEC is. Like,
Yeah.
we had two-factor authentication and they had their entire account tied to one person's phone number and got SIM swapped. And I mean, like, look, like SIM swapping happens all the time in our space, like constantly. So this seems like in the scheme of things that I think are plausible. Like I can see like the story of like they got SIM swapped and hadn't gone through the process of two-factor authentication or had their phone, that seems plausible. I do think it was a pretty mild tweet to put out if you go through all that hassle.
Yeah.
Like you could do a lot more egg on your face than that, but maybe the goal was to be believable. And, so I don't know.
Rational
I'm not sure how that stacks up versus the idea that like they just wrote the tweet and someone pushed send and Gary Gensler decided to tweet that it was compromised. Like both of those seem like possible things.
Yeah, I like it. I've got 2 points on that. The first one slightly tangential, and then bringing it back to the Twitter aspect of it. The first is that I saw a good tweet from Kix from the morning show who said like, what about all these phone companies or that are just swapping our SIMs out all the time? Because the way that their stuff gets hacked, right, it requires the kind of not coordination, but the assistance of these companies. Like, why is that not getting closed down, or that loophole not getting closed down in a bit of a better way? Like, we've just kind of accepted that it's just going to happen over and over again and put all the responsibility on the individual, when there are actually some systems that I'm sure these phone companies can be putting in place to make sure this stuff doesn't happen, but it still gets pushed all onto the individual. Sam, I don't know if you want to come in on that.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't know. I'm like not deep in the SIM swap game, but like from what I understand, it's as simple as going to like the T-Mobile store and convincing someone that you are someone you are not.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you think about it though, like 50% of America at least hates the SEC. All you need is one dude working at T-Mobile to want to like be on your side here. But yeah, I don't like, and my guess is that 99% of the time that this happens, it's actually someone normal who's just like, fuck, I like need a new SIM card. And they're like, okay, can you give us your driver's license? Here you go. Okay, done. Like it seemed, but that's but I don't know. I'm a little bit out of my element when talking about this as far as why this has so consistently persisted. But, I can see a world like people like to do shit that has impact, and there are a lot of people who have, I would imagine, access to SIM cards. And if this is literally just some employee of the SEC's kind of like, who knows? Like, I can definitely see them having bad kind of like phone number tied to their X account, or some employer who set it up, or I have no idea. But I have no idea what I'm talking about. Scratch everything.
As much as I like criticizing the EU, but in terms of the SIM swapping game and laws, we actually made a very good thing here in Europe, which is because we had SIM swapping issues as well. And now it is, if you want to change your SIM, you have to make a manual confirmation on the old phone with the old phone number. So basically, you can't be SIM swapped against your will, which is something that is happening in the US in exactly the way that you described. You either call the service center or you walk into a T-Mobile store and just say that convince the employee there, and this just doesn't work any longer in the EU, which is just a simple law change that they made for that. One more additional piece of news, because it just came in, and John again highlighted in the comments, is that our favorite analyst Eric Balkunas posted happy ETF approval day 14 minutes ago for real this time to all those who celebrate. And as far as we know, it's all systems go. Most likely it is. We see formal approvals ballpark 4 to 6 p.m. today. With the Derby starting on Thursday, we are already at Bloomberg getting DES pages up as we speak, with Bloomberg's screenshot of the pending Bitwise Bitcoin ETF approval. And also an additional note by Eric Balkunas is that the fees have been adjusted one more time. It is really a race to get the lowest fees going. Let me check the numbers on that real quick. I think that BlackRock went down to 20 base points, so 0.2%, and even discounted the first 5 billion that we spoke about even further to 0.12%, to 12 base points. ARK cut their fees to 21 base points, and Bitwise is sitting at 20 base points. So it's really a race who can do and who wants to do the ETF in the cheapest fashion.
Interesting stuff. Very, very good context there. What I want to do in the last 15 minutes is we're going to touch on the Twitter aspect with some contribution from Elon Musk, which I thought was hilarious. Then we're going to do the Web3 news and round up, get you up to speed with what else is going on, then see your hands raised. Jack and Funky want to throw to you. But also very, very crucially, Legendary, we still need to get into why ETH is up. Like, we haven't really explored that yet. Why did Bitcoin go down on yes, there's like all this drama going on and everything happening, but why is Bitcoin down? Why is ETH up? That will be the key thing we want to discuss in just a moment. And that's how we're going to sketch out the rest of the show. But this contribution from Elon really cracked me up, actually. I don't know, Legendary, if you'll be able to check what price impact there was here, but to the question which Sir Doge of the Coin asked, what was the SEC's password? Wrong answers only. Elon replied, LFG Doge to the moon, exclamation mark, exclamation mark. So to Sam's point about people at Twitter probably not liking SEC and probably enjoying the moment, I think this was one of those moments where they're going to enjoy themselves at the SEC's expense. Legendary, do you know if Doge did go to the moon on the basis of this tweet, which was about 14 hours ago?
It was 10 p.m. your time. That was, yeah, that was
Did
a
it?
nice little candle. That was a small candle, you could argue. Yes. Let's say yes. Let's say yes.
Okay.
There was an uptick in the price and a correction immediately after that.
Interesting stuff. Okay. Well, that is everything there. Actually, let's throw to one of Jack and Funky beforehand, before we get into the Web3 news. I think Funky's hand was raised first. Funky, how did you want to contribute on this?
Well, for one, I just wanted to say, I mean, Elon has already come out and said, you know, there's the famous, I think it was on 60 Minutes, I do not respect the SEC. So I'm not surprised that he would comment in that way. But I just wanted to come in on the whole conspiratorial thing real quick, because we have such an intelligent audience. And one of the things I love about the modern market is we often talk about mental models. And this is a great reminder of Occam's razor, or the principle of parsimony, where, you know, it's the simplest explanation is probably the one that's the most logical and likely. And I think it's, you know, as Sam pointed out the other day, like the SEC, though we love dunking on them, they're there to protect investors. They're doing their job. They're trying to. They're a long-standing institution. They're a big plotting, you know, bureaucratic thing. They just can't figure out how to operate Twitter, right? It's newfangled technology.
Absolutely. That definitely true. Sometimes we try to get too conspiratorial in this space. And it gets confusing from that perspective. Just trying to get Legendary back as co-host on the show. I think that's working out, Legendary.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you.
All good. Thanks for that, Funky. I think that makes sense. Jack, what's your take here?
Well, I just think we need to be really clear that if sim swaps are happening because people are proven or trying to prove that they're a person that they're not, we need a lot more distinguished people in these powers of position, because Gensler just looks like everybody's uncle. Like, everybody has a Gensler lookalike in their family. So if that's all it takes is, oh, do you have a bald guy in your family? Okay, well, cool. We can hack the SEC's account on X and make a bag. Like, I feel like we need to start really looking into who are these people in these positions of power, and maybe making sure that they just look a little bit more unique. So
with
that's my
respect, though, Jack, and I think that's a very good point, and I like the thought that went into it. But there is no way that Gary Gensler was like sitting there with his iPhone setting up the Twitter account for the SEC. Like, this is some random assistant at the SEC who set it up and just like dialed in your phone number.
I don't know, Sam. I don't know. My thought is that this was Gensler himself, and also you need to have seen, like, the T-Mobile person would have to know that it was an assistant setting this up. So if you're like, look, I need access to the SEC account. I'm Gensler. No T-Mobile person is going to be like, wait, okay, let me Google who Gensler is. No, the assistant would have done it. I don't believe this was you. Like, so this is just my theory. NFA again, but I'm pretty certain on this one.
Definitely NFA there. I think if the zoomed out point, if we're trying to extract as much factual information there as possible from your take, Jack, is that we don't want usual uncles to be in charge of institutions. Is that have I zoomed out too far there?
No, that is exactly my point, B-Check, and you got that perfectly.
Fantastic. That we will use that to switch into the Web3 news straight away. But before we do that, we're going to take time out to shout out our sponsor for today. Our sponsor is, of course, Gondi. Gondi is the premier NFT lending protocol trusted by legendary collectors Seed Phrase, G-Funk, Tony Herrera, Phantom Scribbler, and Mooncat. Today, we can showcase live on YouTube Gondi's unique partial refinancing feature, which no other NFT lending protocol had implemented before them. Partial refinancing is when a loan has already been made between a lender and a borrower, but you come in as a potential lender and want to offer a better deal, even if you don't have all the funds to refinance the loan. This works, for example, with there being a 10 ETH asset with a 7 ETH loan out at 10% APR for a year, but you can't refinance it all to 7.1 ETH because you don't have all that ETH. So with Gondi, you can refinance a tranche of that loan, just like a portion, and there can be up to 10 tranches, which need to be a minimum of 5% of the principal loan amount. And you can do that in the corner. You can see the full loan amount, and then you just click on the tranche section. So that's really good for borrowers as they get the best marginal rate in the market, and it's great for lenders as they can get exposure to high value assets, high value asset loans without having access to the full principal amount. Legendary is super familiar with tranches from his experience in traditional finance. What do you think about that innovation, Legendary?
It's quite cool because it really reminds me of my days in investment banking. This was actually the main thing that I used to do in commercial real estate to manage the loans that we did in tranches with other banks for massive commercial real estate projects. So it is a cool feature to see that reflected. And today is actually the day when my first loan that I did on Gondi, a doodle, has completed.
Ooh.
I got my ETH back. I didn't get the doodle. I kind of wanted to get the doodle and speculated on them forgetting about the loan and speculated on them defaulting, but that didn't happen. I just, quote unquote, got my money plus a bit of fees earned on that back. But I do think that the partial financing or refinancing in tranches is a pretty cool feature.
Very cool. Unlucky about the default, but very cool innovation nevertheless. If you'd like to learn more, follow Gondi XYZ and head to their website or jump in their Discord. Let's get into the Web3 news now, bring you up to speed with what else is going on in the space. Number one, we have Pixel Vault's Battle Plan game going live today on Arbitrum. That's very cool. It's been long in the works, finally coming to market today. Number two, Web3 data infrastructure company Entangle announced a $4 million raise. They're building some very cool stuff. Legendary and I were involved in investing there. Next, BlackRock lined up $2 billion in investment, according to Bloomberg's Eric Balchunas. We spoke about that the other day as rumors. Bloomberg's Eric Balchunas wanted to confirm that on Laura Shin's Unchained podcast. Number four, harassment allegations emerge on founder of Node Monkeys. The floor price drops to 0.175 BTC when I checked last. Getting into some more news, Spanish soccer league La Liga announces next-gen Web3 game with NFTs. Other side announces next trip in the swamp in February 24. Got a little bit of criticism for the frame rate not being as good as it could have been. And finally, Nouns offer $20,000 worth of grants, again for builders with formidable ideas. So if you have a formidable idea, take a look at what they have to offer. Legendary, that is the price action. So that's not the price action, that's the Web3 news and the roundup of what else is going on. Let's get into the big question, which people will be wondering about, which is all of this drama happening yesterday. Bitcoin ends up a little bit down and ETH decides to run up 5%. What's going on?
Can I return the question to you? What is going on with ETH?
No, you cannot.
Why is it moving? No, it's a very good question. because it is the 2.4K mark is a what 21 month high that that ETH had reached, and I don't really know why it is up amidst all the other market volatility that we've seen with fake approvals, fake denials of the ETF. So I don't have a strong theory on that one, to be honest with you.
Fair enough. I guess we're trying to figure it out as we go. I don't know anyone. I know that, look, I know that there was a certain proportion of people who did suggest that once the Bitcoin ETF is done, all eyes will be on ETH then as the next one, right? But I don't know that anyone necessarily thought that the moment of an approval or a fake approval or anything like that, I don't know anyone who suggested like literally on the day ETH was going to start to rip, because we're already looking forward to the next thing. So
maybe Gary Gensler knew that ETH would run after the approval, so he needed to buy ETH before the Bitcoin approval tomorrow.
but only on a fake approval, Sam, and that's why he did the fake approval.
No, he
right?
did the fake approval so he could get his ETH buys in before the Bitcoin approval, because everyone knows that after that approval, then ETH's going to run.
Yeah, so I think Gary Gensler actually wanted to test the market to see how ETH is going to react to the approval, got a little bag to just test things out. So, oh, that's a 5% move. And now he's ready to make the real money on the real approval. I think we figured it out in less than 2 minutes. It's amazing.
Super interesting. Okay, so that's why ETH is moving. So the answer to why ETH is moving is either A, we don't know, B, Gary Gensler has filled his bags now, or C,
BlackRock. We forgot about BlackRock, obviously. How could we do that?
C, BlackRock, D. I'm trying to come up with an actual. I'm going through all the letters of the alphabet here, trying to get to a more reasonable answer to get rid of the joke answers. D.
It is weird though. I mean, these markets do move in unpredictable ways, and I think a lot of times it is. You get flash crashes. Sometimes you don't even know what's going on, right? I think, it's very hard to understand kind of the inner workings of kind of day-to-day crypto moves, in my view.
Absolutely. What do we think though? Okay, we've spoken about ETH, why that might be moving. And the answer is very much not clear. I genuinely do think one of the things I saw a lot was that the idea that, like, look, once Bitcoin is done and dusted, eyes will go to ETH. And I did also see some people suggesting that the ETH BTC ratio had got very, very low quite recently. And so maybe it was just due a little bit of a bounce from that perspective. That was another potential idea. The question I wanted to put out then, if we're not 100% clear on that, Legendary, is Bitcoin going down? Was that what we expect? Is that just because it's a fake one? What's your position there? I think Sam's off mute, so we'll come to you just after Sam, and then Bread's with us. Nice. Bread, we'll come to you just after that as well. Legendary.
Oh, me first. Sorry, so I thought Sam first. Yeah, I think the Bitcoin up and down is just the market is still super nervous. I mean, everyone's expecting an approval. I'm expecting an approval, but we are reacting to all kinds of news, whether that's a fake approval, whether that's that matrix board report. Like, it's a super volatile state of the market until we have definitive news on that. Just going back real quick on the ETH question before, the only thing that I could think about, at least in my mental model, would make sense is that we saw capital shift from ETH and into BTC before the approval, that people wanted to position themselves for the ETF approval before it goes through, and now either based on that fake approval or on the price action with that, then that money did flow back into ETH. That could be one thing that had happened, but again, as Sam said, purely speculative and sometimes absolutely impossible to know what's behind a 5% up or down move in any given market or cryptocurrency.
Fair enough. Sam, you wanted to come in?
I'd say to go to Brad. He probably has a stronger opinion on this. I do think this view though that like ETH could have the next ETF run. Like, I think that is a narrative. The market hasn't really moved on it if you look at the ratios and stuff. So I think that's like a reasonable bull case.
Sam, just quick question on that. Were you aware of this Celsius selling of ETH? This came across my radar the other day, and I haven't like verified it as such, but apparently there's huge amounts of ETH being sold by Celsius. Is that on your radar at all?
It is not, but based on all the 100s that are being flashed by Jack Funky and Kusho, it sounds like it's real.
Okay.
Yeah, it's about 100 million an hour, basically. They're rolling through a couple billion.
Yeah, it's pretty outrageous. That was the other thing. I mean, I can't believe we didn't know this sooner. I think it came across my radar last week. So I think that's pretty damn significant in terms of like why ETH isn't moving if we were expecting it to move. But Brad, we wanted to throw to you anyway for your broader take on this whole situation. But if you want to add any more on that, that would be awesome too.
Yeah. What's up, dudes? It's been a while. How you doing?
Yeah, good. Man. Good to see you.
Yeah, I mean, I think NFT Sam started getting on it pretty quickly there. Obviously, yes, no one knows what's like the real reason is for this stuff, especially 5% in crypto. I mean, come on, that's someone woke up on the wrong side of the bed stuff. But like the obvious play that I've seen talked about on podcasts, right? So maybe not on Spaces too much because it's all NFT focused in this area, but podcasts specifically is okay. Bitcoin ETF is approved largely. Everyone agrees with that, and ETH ETF is on the horizon. I think decision is due in last I heard was March on the Unchained podcast. The applications are already in, so like the decision date is in March. That has to be done. I think it's like March 10th, something like that. And it's just, frankly, look around. Like ETH has gotten the shit beat out of it the last I don't know, 2 months, right? Solana rotation has come up. The Bitcoin is pure rotation has come up. So like everyone is saying ETH is stupid and whatever. And I think it's been beat down really long. So I think now with the BTC ETF out of the way, largely, I think kind of last night maybe took the edge off for a lot of people, and just everyone was assuming that's going on. They're starting the rotation early. They go to ETH ETF, and then on top of that, now you have restaking, you have ETH upgrade where L2s get cheaper, and frankly, again, just it's been beat up really heavily the last 2 months. So I think it's just natural rotation starting to kick off, and it's waiting for a catalyst. And the catalyst was, well, okay, the BTC thing's done. What's next? And it's ETH.
Nice. I think, yeah, that's definitely a compelling argument to put forward. 2 follow-up questions, Brad. 1, do you think that, okay, fine, attention will move towards ETH and maybe that it's got like a bit of room to run because it's been beat down, but do you think it can move simultaneously with Bitcoin then? Like once this ETF approval does get sorted properly, can it move in unison? And then the second question, which I liked, you kind of took it to the restaking point and layer 2s and everything going on there. There's been a lot of criticism, or one of the arguments against ETH at the moment is that liquidity is getting fractionalized, because now if you want to bet on the ETH ecosystem, you can go with the main token, but you can also do Arbitrum, Optimism, or any of these other L2s. Is that one that concerns you? How do you think about that?
Yeah, so I think it's important to always talk about time horizons whenever you start doing predictions like this, because I'm not a day trader. I don't do even weekly trading. I do weeks or months, years. I just frankly don't do it. So for me, I think absolutely yes, ETH and BTC both go up this entire year. I think Clouded, he's another big developer. He used the ETF as it's basically a generational TWAP on the base asset, and that's what's going to happen with BTC. Now you have this almost eternal buy pressure. Whether like the amount is going to be different for anyone you ask, right? But I think if it becomes a legitimate asset class, then now you have all of these funds competing, and it's a power law thing, right? So they all now have to get out in front of the other one, because there's going to be 1 or 2 very large winners, and then there's going to be everyone else, and they all want to be that because it's a new asset class to get fees on. So that's the incentives there. They're going to push it. And if that happens, then let's say you get 0.5% or 1% exposure from all these funds as just this is a balanced portfolio if you want to have exposure to that. So that's all money. And frankly, the relative market cap size between traditional markets and crypto is still astronomical. So even 0.5%, 1% allocation of a balanced portfolio to crypto and largely BTC means, yeah, a lot of inflows relative to what we have here. And if that happens at Ethereum as well, then of course, yeah, you're going to have a lot of buy pressure on both of those things that, relatively speaking, that is just good general uptrend. And I think the entire industry goes up this entire year. So yes, I think both go up, but I do think, again, we have short attention spans, and we're all really Solana and paralyzed EVM focused the last 2 months. Everyone thought it was God's gift, but we're going to get bored, because we always get bored. And then we're going to go to Bitcoin. Bitcoin's happened. Now what's next for Bitcoin? We're going to wait for people to lay down code, which takes a couple months. So that we're going to get bored. We're going to go back to Ethereum, because Ethereum has the upgrade. It has restaking. It has, I don't know, a game or two dropping. It's going to be enough for us to talk about it, bring attention, and rotations rotate.
Yeah, really thoughtful answer there, man. Like, that's so helpful and really interesting to dive into some of those points. You mentioned there, one of the key things to think about, I agree with you that it sounds like, from what you said, and I've been thinking about this without forming my thoughts perfectly, is that ETH, in some respects, for the economic activity taking place on it, is far further down the line in terms of its development than these other chains. Even if other ones like Bitcoin, of course, have been around for longer, the economic activity on ETH is much further developed. And that's proven by I think a lot of people are moving over to Solana, for example, thinking that the same thing that played out on ETH, for example, with NFTs and NFT marketplaces, tokens, with everyone going over to Tensor to farm that token now. It's like, well, we've seen this happen before on ETH. Let's just go do it on another one. Let's just go and do it on Bitcoin then after that, because it's already happened on ETH, whereas ETH is still kind of pushing forward. Is that something that you've been thinking about? And do you think ultimately, once you've been around and like gone to all the other places that are just following ETH's playbook in that respect, and I know they're probably doing other more unique things as well, but do you think all roads kind of lead back to ETH? Is that where you're going with the argument in some way?
I wouldn't go that far, because I would say there's enough things that can happen in this industry that blockchain broadly can cover, that everything is going to be able to garner its own ecosystem and grow. So yes, there will be a herd that kind of swashes around everywhere, but you're going to have people that stick in one ecosystem over another for various reasons, because there are some novel applications on ordinals and in a parallel EVM or parallel processing environment that you get on Solana, like the native fee markets and stuff. And then, but yes, like my strongest thing of why I would not fade the Ethereum ecosystem broadly is, again, I said it on Thread Guy Space the other day, is the one thing you can't replace right now quickly is the man hours, the simple man hours that have been poured into the ecosystem of Ethereum, right? So everyone getting all bricked up about like, oh my God, you can snipe a mempool on Bitcoin. Well, I mean, that stuff has been so ridiculously developed on the Ethereum side that like you have an entire bot farms and teams dedicated solely to MEV extraction, which is the exact same thing. It's just MEV extraction inside the mempool. Like, so the fact that they're just now getting to MEV on Bitcoin, where that has been an entire industry for 4 years, and teams and code, like the just laying down code has happened in that Ethereum ecosystem. And then you have, again, 60 L2s that are being spun up on top of that, and all of the teams and entire businesses on top of that that are dedicating, you know, hundreds of millions of dollars and whatever else, and man hour wise to it. It's just, you can't make that time up quickly. So that's going to come to fruition. Those products are going to come forward, and you're going to see a lot of things to get excited about over there. It's just, that's how it is. And all that stuff burns ETH. So
yeah, I really like that idea. And putting it in terms of man hours is actually quite helpful, because one of the ways I've thought about different blockchains is like the development of different cities. When you start to think of man hours, you can start to kind of picture people constructing stuff. And the more like, and when you think about it in man hours, you can see that the more man hours you have, the more things that have been constructed and the more infrastructure that you've built. And obviously it's the case that the people who've spent fewer hours just haven't quite got to where the people who've spent more man hours have got to. So I think that's a really interesting analogy. Legendary, I want to throw to you before we close out today. We've run over a little bit in time. Any thoughts on what we've just been discussing, this man hour perspective, where we are in this kind of rotation between these coins, whether things kind of end up going back to ETH? What are your concluding thoughts on this discussion?
Yeah, very interesting discussion. I think Brett is absolutely spot on. We love to get bored in the space, and whenever we see a token move, then we make it the future of finance, right? Solana was the future of finance for a while. Then Say or Sai, however that might be pronounced, which is an interesting ecosystem. I've been exploring it as well. Was the future of finance when that token did rally, And at the end of the day, we do love coming back to ETH and BTC, which is not to invalidate all those other blockchains, alternative layer one solutions, cross-chain data abstraction layers that are being built with Near or other blockchains. Absolutely not to invalidate them, but there is something to say about the amount of TVL that we have locked in ETH, and about the city building analogy. And even if you look at it from the gaming perspective and make the argument, all those layer two solutions will take over, et cetera, the economic activity, there was a very interesting chart that I was looking for right now that I saw yesterday for gaming is, if you look at Arbitrum, other L2 solutions, Arbitrum is way smaller than ETH, even when you look at gaming specific activity. For example, one of the L2 solutions, or that has more economic activity than ETH, and thus more activity than Arbitrum and others, is Polygon, which we also kind of like to dunk on a bit from the perspective that they have amazing biz dev going, but nobody really talks about Polygon connected to gaming. So I do think that looking at economic activity, transaction activity, is a good way and a good metric to approach things, and same for TVL, because we had that discussion, before in one of our spaces, and I think it was, I don't know, last year in December, where there was kind of the argument made by someone who was deeply into Solana, saying that, TVL doesn't really matter. Like, I completely disagree with that take. I do think it is a very relevant metric to see how much money a blockchain technology company, whatever other kind of institution, is trusted with. I think that's everything I wanted to add on that.
Interesting. Just from a personal perspective, one of the reasons why in all of this madness and people cycling to Solana and ordinals and all of this stuff, one of the reasons why I never sold ETH to get exposure, because obviously I am predominantly ETH centered. The snapshot kind of shows that we've focused here. That's where our economic activity has been since the NFT market exploded in 2021. But the reason why I mean, to be clear, I did go and explore those cities in Solana and Bitcoin. Like, I've got an ordinal, I've been on Solana, but the reason why I didn't sell ETH to go and do that was because this was a personal thing, and I wonder if it resonates. It's just that it's just so useful. ETH is so useful for various things. Like, you can use it as collateral. You can send, like, say, some of these investments we've been doing, you can send ETH as money. Like, people will happily take the ETH instead of USDC. People know that I'm involved with NFT lending, and there's like a very much established NFT lending market on Ethereum as well. So it's just so useful, and I couldn't bring myself to sell something which I genuinely found really, really useful in order to get exposure to something else. So that was just one of my reflections and like thought processes when during this period. And that doesn't mean I haven't gone and got exposure across the board, because I have, but I just tried to make sure it wasn't from the ETH kind of core holdings. But guys, this has been a fantastic show. Just to close out, a final shout out to our sponsor, Gondi, the premier NFT lending protocol. If you're interested, follow Gondi XYZ and head to their website, or jump in the Discord to learn more. We've run over time today, but if you're new here, we run this show every single day, Monday to Friday, 7 a.m. Eastern time, 12 p.m. GMT, every day of the week. We discuss all things to do with crypto, NFTs, and the SEC and Gary Gensler. Have a wonderful day. Take care. We will see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.